So my next guest today is Laith Altimime. He's from SEMI. In fact, he's the president of SEMI Europe.
Indeed, yes.
So welcome, Laith. Nice to see you today.
Thank you.
So obviously it's an exciting time to be here at SEMICON West. Sellout show.
Yes.
A lot of foot traffic on the show floor.
Yes.
I'm thinking you're probably going to want the same for SEMICON Europa when it comes around in November.
We're expecting so, indeed, yes.
Yes, okay. So one of the things that's obviously driving the level of attendance here is the US CHIPS Act. Yes. And we have an equivalent one in Europe, the European CHIPS Act. So I think it's interesting to see how both of these are developing them. And from what I can see as an outsider looking in, it looks like the Europeans are embracing a little bit more of the entire supply chain than the American chips at the moment.
Yes.
Because obviously a customer, when he buys a product, he doesn't buy a chip, he buys a product.
Exactly.
You know.
Yes.
What's your view on between the two?
Yeah. So I think the CHIPS Act in general, I think, as you know, like it was triggered by the US CHIPS Act, then European CHIPS Act. But actually, it happened worldwide. You know, like every country started to launch their own CHIPS Act.
True.
So the most fundamental value that the CHIPS Act provided, it's really taken the semiconductor industry collaborations at global level to the next level. So that you can see, like everywhere, the need for collaborations.
Right.
The European CHIPS Act is instrumental in attracting inward investment, but also foreign investments. And there has been tremendous exciting investments over the last 2-3 years since the launch of the CHIPS Act, of the EU CHIPS Act. And most recently, we had, in the last 2 weeks, 2 new investments. So the last one was the TSMC in Europe, ESMC. And then we had also on SEMI, investing $2 billion in Czech Republic.
Yeah.
And most recently, STMicro announced a $5 billion investment in silicon carbide fab in Catania. So I think they complement each other. I think the two are really learning from each other. I think one of the things that was announced this week during SEMICON West is SK Hynix investment in advanced packaging, $3.8 billion.
Yes.
This definitely complements the value chain.
Absolutely.
And this is something that it's a gap in Europe, and we're hoping that this will be the next investment that will be on advanced packaging, because it's instrumental and building on the strength of what Europe has, particularly in the automotive industry. We hear chiplets all the time.
Yeah.
So this would be key value add that Europe can benefit and learn from the US, most recent announcement, to complement the supply chain.
Yeah, and of course SK Hynix is one of the big suppliers of chips and things into NVIDIA.
Absolutely.
Which is of course
world number one.
World number one, right? Isn't it? Yeah. And of course, and then NVIDIA is also working hand in hand with TSMC.
Absolutely.
So it's really an exciting time for all these companies.
Yes.
So that's great. But obviously, when you have that amount of inward investment and growth within an industry, you're going to need the workforce to back it up.
Absolutely.
So that's maybe where you come in a little bit. What is SEMI doing to try and help with workforce development in Europe?
Absolutely. So workforce is one of the top 3 headwinds. The industry is now also impacted massively by geopolitics, workforce development, climate/PFAS, which is crucial for the industry. So on the workforce development, we have a holistic roadmap as SEMI that we drive from a global level, but also it filters down to the regions. This is something that we drive passionately because it's super important. And we address many elements, like to really promote, the workforce development. Industry campaign is a key tool that we need to work on, so that we can educate, the young generation. So we work in the, let's say, as I said, from a semi-global in all 7 regions. And from Europe point of view, we're also lucky. We have great support from the European Commission. That they continue to invest, provide funding for projects that are on talent, on skills, and most recently on diversity.
Right.
So we address many layers of the workforce, and most recently also we established a semi-European university network with an education board, because the most key element is how do you connect the academia with industry so that you can continue to provide that pipeline.
Right.
So we're not only at university level, but also we launched many what we call High-Tech U. It's a brand tool that we introduce at school level, so that from early stage they can become aware of the semiconductor industry, what it's all about. And then we take it to universities and we bring, during what we call semi-talent forums, we bring industry and academia together. We host them like at university site.
Right.
So we address many in terms of the new pipeline, but at the same time, diversity is key, because by default, it broadens, the talent pool. And it's key that also the diversity is promoted. In addition to that, we've also been focused on how do we promote retention of high performers, high potential employees in the industry, so that they really get recognized, because the last thing you want to do is lose key people in what you have today. And we're also working with the industry, with the academia, to launch what we call, ambassador level, 20 under 30.
Interesting. Yeah.
So we are addressing academia, industry, but also we're working with academia, we're working with industry, with semi-initiatives, that semi-developed initiatives, to make sure we address at all levels of the talent pipeline.
Right. I mean, you touched on a couple of points there. I mean, obviously, so on the one hand, you're working hand in hand with academia to identify the skills and talents that are needed.
Absolutely.
And fill these gaps or create programs towards these. But at the other end of the scale, we have this tsunami, if you like, of grey-haired talent leaving the industry.
Absolutely.
And we've somehow got to try and retain that or capture it to be able to pass on to the next generation.
Absolutely.
So the ambassador program sounds really interesting from that point of view. I mean, what do you say when you listen to people like Elon Musk, who says that in 5 years' time there's going to be a lot of humanoid robots inside these factories and taking a lot of these jobs? I mean, the semiconductor manufacturing industry is already highly automated.
Yes.
But I'm sure there's probably some tasks that could be further automated.
Absolutely. So I think the digital transformation is driving this. Everything will be AI. AI fundamentally underpins the whole industry growth to the 1 trillion. There will be a lot of digitization, but also at the same time, there will be a lot of new opportunities, like that you use reskilling and upskilling. There will be a lot of new skill sets that will be needed.
True.
So it will not be, like in my personal opinion, there will be tremendous opportunities for the young generation. So as you mentioned, the gray generation, they set the scene to where the industry is at today. So the young generation needs to drive that to the next level, to the 2030, 2050. And they also have to have an input into that.
Yes.
So will it impact jobs? In my opinion, absolutely not. The assessment that SEMI has done, along with many of our market partners, is that we estimate we will need 1 million more people by 2030 to reach the $1 trillion industry.
Wow. Well, that's obvious because the industry is growing by application.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And many applications, all underpinned by AI. The industry today is just under $600 billion global. The next inflection point is Gen AI. And this will definitely take it over the 700, 800 billion. And this is within the next 2 to 3 years. So the expectation is that by 2027, this will exceed the 700 billion. And then the next wave will be the the high performance computing, quantum, neuromorphic, and even new computing, will be needed. Because the AI, although it's providing phenomenal drive to the industry, it is also absolutely true. It demands a tremendous amount of compute power. So we need to
I mean,
think
we're
of
seeing that at the moment. I mean, there's a lot of issues around, thermal excursions and stuff like that at the moment in the industry.
Yes.
And they're addressing that with all sorts of different ways. I mean, there's new substrates coming in and all sorts of different things. So it's a really exciting time to be in the industry. So I want to, before I want to let you to discuss SEMICON Europa, because that's obviously the one that you're primarily responsible for.
Yes.
It's in November, and it basically is co-located with Electronica in Munich. That's an ideal time for European engineers to come along and learn more about what's happening in the industry.
Yes.
What can they expect to see this year?
So the theme of the SEMICON Europa this year is very much in line with the center of excellence what Europe has, which is innovation and collaboration.
Right.
And also although it's European, it's like here, it's really global. We're having a huge influx, like from Asia coming like to the SEMICON Europa. It's no longer European, as I mentioned earlier. It's a global collaborative platform that brings all players basically to connect, to collaborate, to innovate. And we are super excited, to host this year also, as you mentioned, with Electronica. This is, by far the largest electronics platform in Europe. And it brings all players. It addresses all applications.
Yes.
So you will see industry executives sharing their vision and how the industry is going to move forward, and collaborative examples of how we need to work together, to address the geopolitics, the talent, the climate, which are really top three challenges ahead. So it's European-centric, absolutely, to focus on European maintaining its competitive leadership advantage, but you can only do that through global collaboration.
Right. Is the show going to be bigger this year? Are you doing more than one hall? Are you into...
So we have been lucky that year on year we set a new record, and this year also it's a new record for SEMICON Europa. We have exceeded 2 halls, and we are still negotiating with our business partners for more space. So it's tremendously exciting.
Good.
And it's a new record, yes. And it also sets the bar for next year.
Yes.
So yes, it's a huge excitement, and SEMICON Europa, and based on our let's say visitors and exhibitors' feedback, it's an experience.
Yes.
You bring everybody together, and it's 4 days. And we have many excellent programs addressing all the new initiatives on the workforce development, on the smart mobility, on smart manufacturing, advanced packaging. So we bring all these elements in parallel during SEMICON Europa.
So you've got a full conference program running alongside it.
Yes.
And that's using the ICM area at
exactly, yes, the International Congress space, yes.
Yeah. Excellent.
And this year also we are moving our annual MEMS and Imaging Sensor Summit. Normally it's held as standalone. This year we're bringing it as part of SEMICON Europa, because as you said, the end, nobody's looking for a chip. You're looking for a package.
Yes.
And that brings everything, the MEMS, the sensors, the memory, the logic, and so on. So it complements the whole value chain.
Well, it sounds hugely exciting, and certainly we're going to make every effort to be there to support it. And we look forward to seeing you in November.
We look forward to welcoming you in November. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming in today.
My pleasure. Thank you.